got the body assembled, it's time to route the binding ledges. Now, before I do that, I'm going to take the neck off and I'm going to make sure that my sides are fair and straight and perfect. I don't want to route a binding ledge to a side that's got a little lump or a bump that I'm going to sand out later, because then I'll affect the dimension of that binding. So I want to make sure that I'm shaped to size here. Not a final sanding yet by any means, but I want to make sure that I've done my final shaping on my sides. So first thing to do, take the neck off. Easy enough to grab a Allen wrench at this point, put my hand in the hole and pull the bolts out, but easier still if you're going to do this a bit. Here's a very, very long Allen wrench, just a piece of steel bar stock that's been bent on the end, and you can see I've brazed an Allen wrench into the end of that will fit into the bolt. You can sand the sides of the instrument just with it on your workbench, but it's nice to have a jig like this to hold it in place while you're doing your sanding. It just makes life easier. There's all kinds of different arrangements here, but in essence, it has a clamping mechanism here that you don't want to put too much pressure on this. You just want to hold it in place. But it's got little pads inside here that are arched greater than the dome of the top, so that it's basically grabbing out at the edges, out at the sides, and not really putting any pressure in the middle. To make this one, I've got these little knobs on here, but what's inside is a cannibalized clamp like this. I had just cut the end off here and secured it into the side, and then the screw can go in and out. When I originally did this, I just kept the ends on here, but these getting caught on my belt loops as I was walking by, so I put something nice and round on so that I wouldn't get caught by it. The intent right now is to make a nice, fair, flat side. I want to correct any errors that may have occurred or imperfections as I was bending the sides, and I want to make sure that this is ready for final finishing down the road. Still have to put all the binding on, so there's a lot more sanding to do here after this stage, but I want to get this right now so the router bearing's got a place to follow that's accurate. To that end, I'm not going to use an orbital sander or something like that, especially on this soft spruce. That would just take material away too aggressively and I'd lose control of it. I'm going to use a hard block with some sandpaper stuck to it, and that way I'm going to be able to watch my progress a little bit better. If I can't see it very well, I can always use chalk or pencil on the side, and that'll show me where my low spots are. I don't want to push too hard on this, even if it was a hardwood side, because at these thicknesses they're a little bit flexible and I can distort the shape of the material that I'm sanding. I want to use a light touch, and I want to watch what's happening. Let the tool do the work.
Well, I'm going down that road feeling bad, going down that road feeling bad, going down this road feeling bad, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this old way. Got me way down in jail on my knees. That jailer, well, it sure is hard to please. They beat me on cornbread and beef, Lord, I ain't gonna be treated this old way. I'm going down that road feeling bad. I'm down that road feeling bad. I'm going down this road feeling bad, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
I'm not going to get into how to bind by hand in this video. It's a bit of a tedious project. Enjoyable, but I like to use this tower type binding rig that I made a few years ago. The core of it here rests in being able to get different sized bearings that will do what it is you want to do with your binding. This bearing here has a Corian spacer on it, just like this one here, but they've been dimensioned to different sizes. The difference between these two is exactly the thickness of the black-white veneer. that I'm going to be using. And this larger bearing that I have in my hand, when I put it on here, will route a channel that is the size of the binding that I want to use. Now, if you want some information on how to do this, please refer to American Loo Theory's edition number 102. I think it was spring 2010. I had a little article in there as how to do this. But otherwise, you have to go find bearings or create bindings that work with the stock bearings that you can get. So I'll be changing this throughout. And then the router base has been attached to a little dovetailed piece. I'll show in a second. But I've turned a piece of Corian again. You can see it's got just a little bit of a radius here, leading to a standard bushing that bit is going to fit through. The radius is to allow it to ride on the variations of the guitar as it moves around the guitar. And then, like I said, it's been mounted to this piece of Purple Heart that's got two dovetails in it that correspond to the dovetails on the tower. So I'll go ahead and slip that on right now. I'm kind of proud to say that this design here is what LMI has adopted, only a little more sophisticatedly. They're using a linear bearing, which is basically round extrusions instead of the dovetails on this. A little more elegant, but the tower is kind of the same design, and so that's, I guess, validation for what I built some years ago. This one works. I have to put paste wax on it to make sure that it moves smoothly every time. I don't want it hesitating when it's trying to fall back down as we're coming around the top. And in a second here, I'll show you a simple way of building a sled. Lots of different good ways of building sleds, but this one's been working great for me. The concept for my sled is pretty simple. I've got two fixed points down here where the bottom of the guitar is going to be pushed down in between those two and held in place down there. And then up by the waist, I've got these two other dowels that are drilled off to the side with a sort of a cam action. That allows me to adjust where they are depending on which instrument I'm going to be doing at this point. I've already tightened this one down because as I tighten it with the wrench, it has a tendency to roll away from holding on to the instrument. So I've already pre-fitted this, so I've got that benefit right now. I'm just going to go ahead and slide this in. And I know about where it's supposed to rest. And at this point you can see I can push this one in with a sort of a cam action. And then when I tighten it, because of the clockwise action here, it will actually push that into the body. Now, I haven't done any adjusting on this yet, but what I want to do is I want to go around the outside of the instrument with a square. And what I'm after here is not having the router be level with the back because it keeps changing shape as it goes around. I want the blade to be parallel with the sides. So this is not going to be perfect, but I'm going to go around and analyze what's going on. And then through the use of shims and other devices, I'll go ahead and hold the instrument. Let's see, I have to raise it a little bit. I'll hold it up a little bit in this location. And it may be the same on both sides. I may have to do some other asymmetrical shimming. But once I'm ready with this and I'm happy with it and it's solid, we'll be able to route the first cut.
I'm going down that road feeling bad, going down that road feeling bad, going down this road feeling bad, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this old way. Got me way down in jail on my knees. That jailer Willie sure is hard to please. They feed me on cornbread and beef, Lord, I ain't gonna be treated this old way. I'm going down that road feeling bad. I'm down that road feeling bad. I'm going down that road feeling bad, Lord, and I ain't gonna be treated this way.
Some nice tight binding ledges. I did mention it before, make sure you get that little block in there, or when you're doing the back, you might have a new detail you're putting on the back of your guitar. It doesn't matter so much on the front because that gets covered by the fretboard, but it's a good idea to make sure you have that in the first place. Again, you can do this by hand with a Grammel or other scribing tools and chisels and router planes and a lot of care and technique. It can be a relaxing, wonderful thing to do. This just makes it easy and is very accurate. We'll bind it next time.
What a whole lot of fun this bluegrass music is.